This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
Oh man, what a week. The game last night was crazy, the New England game. They just kept running the ball at Buffalo, and Buffalo just didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
Did you watch any of that?
I did. I didn't hear any news about the weather until I turned on the game for the pregame, and I was like, "Ooh, that looks cold."
Yeah.
And it was an interesting game to watch. Statistically, phenomenal game, considering a quarterback in my PPR league only scored 0.46 for Mac Jones points because he didn't make the threshold of 25 yards just to gain 1 point. And his running, he was like -3 or something. So I was definitely at the end of the game looking at about how he scored because I was more interested in wow, the factor of wow.
Yep, I had him on my bench, thankfully, because he's my backup now. Brady's obviously the starter, but yeah, Mac Jones is my go-to if I ever have an emergency. So I'm glad that I didn't need him this week because that would have been brutal.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that you're holding out till Monday to play him, and
right?
You just get disappointed.
Right.
But yeah, but the running game for Patriots is pretty great. Like they were at the third quarter, they were running at least in the middle for 5 to 6 yards every time. So that defense definitely got tired from all that upfront work from the linemen. So good on them. But yeah, I was quite surprised how many yards they were getting. Like some teams, I know I watched Detroit all the time, and they can't even run up the middle for 2 yards. So for them to be running up on one of the best defenses, supposedly up front there. So.
Yeah, it's getting cold. We're getting close to playoff time, and teams that cannot run the ball, like Baltimore and like Buffalo last night, those kind of teams look really good in September, but as we get to December and January, if you can't run the ball, I mean, weather can happen at any time. And I mean, that game was in Buffalo. That was Buffalo's home stadium, and they didn't have a game that would allow them to win at home in bad weather, which is really surprising to me.
Yeah, I know. Like in the commentary, they were saying like this is Buffalo's year, right? Like they worked to get to this year, but really, and we've talked about it in several weeks in the past, that we don't even trust any of their running backs because they don't even have a running game. So It's kind of funny how the commentators were like, this is Buffalo's year, but then they don't even have a whole team. Crappier teams in the league have better running backs than Buffalo, or a better run block offensive line than Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're fading down the stretch here. We'll see what kind of adjustments they make, but I couldn't agree more. And was talking about Baltimore there for a second because I feel like, their running game, with all their running backs being injured and their passing game really inconsistent, they don't seem to have much of a running game. So I'm thinking they're fading down the stretch too. They've got Cleveland this week, big divisional game. And brings us to our waiver picks. I've got Baker Mayfield. He may be available on a lot of people's waiver list. And I know that Baltimore is usually a strong D, but they lost another starting corner. Humphrey is now out for the season with another chest injury. And I just think if Cleveland's going to do anything with their loaded lineup, they better make a move now and come at Baltimore while they're weak and see if they can't make some gains in the division. And I think it might be a Baker game this weekend.
Okay.
You're not big on Baker.
No, he's he's a little bit banged up. So if you're looking for a quarterback, I don't think we went through the people that are on bye weeks this week, which would be the Colts, the Dolphins, Patriots, and the Eagles. If you need there's someone to replace Jalen Hurts, maybe Mayfield would be somebody to consider. I know last week we kind of talked a little bit about Taysom Hill, and I kind of shook my head at it. And I watched him last Thursday play, and I guess he's a good running quarterback, fullback. Is he Tim Tebow? I don't know who he is. He's someone to also consider because he got 2 touchdowns and ran the most yards of all running backs, all backs on the field. So that's all, I guess someone else that you could probably start on your bench because, Tua would be also another quarterback sitting this week as well too. And we've been talking about Tua for several weeks now. He's been on our list. So if someone's been listening and they grab him or that's their number one regardless throughout the year, I think those 2 would be fair options out there for the quarterback spot.
What do you think about Carolina firing their offensive coordinator? Do you think that Cam Newton, his value goes up? Because they're talking about wanting to run the ball more now. And, they've got the new starter, Cam Newton. What do you think? Do you think his value goes up now, or do you think we need to see it first?
It's so difficult to understand mindsets of teams that are going through rebuilds at week 14. If you have your bread and butter players that are working, start those. For these odd ones that we don't know, like New York Giants had a firing the other week. We don't know what's going on with their offensive catching or running of the ball. Carolina's the same thing. There's all these unknowns, and you're going into playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I don't think anyone really can predict what the future is going to be unless you're sitting in the dressing rooms. So
yeah. Well, you mentioned the Giants. So another quarterback we've got on the list here is Jake Frum, who nobody's ever heard of. But Mike Glennon, what's that?
Where's he from?
Yeah, good one.
But that's what I mean. You're gonna start a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator with a one-legged running back and a receiver that decides to, I don't know, go out of commission or punch somebody in the head or I don't know, whatever, Tawny and Galladay is going on. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Sherman, sure, put that man in.
Well, we have seen Davis Mills from Houston. We have seen him earlier this year. He was playing quite well. And then Tyrod Taylor came back and they gave the starting job back to him, but they looked really bad last week. So apparently Tyrod's hurt again and they're going back to Davis Mills. So he'd be another guy if you're desperate for a QB. I mean, it's so weird that they've got bye weeks in week 14. This is the latest they've ever had bye weeks in NFL season. And for fantasy, it's really tough because the playoffs are coming up. This is the last regular season week for my league, and the playoffs start next week. And you got guys fighting for their fantasy playoff lives, and they're going to have to go to the waiver wire because they need to replace, Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts or, whoever they've got. So, I mean, these names are on the list because you might be in a situation where you need a QB just for 1 week.
My league, we actually have week 16 as our semifinals. So a little bit different. I actually kind of pushed for the call to keep it at the same, keeping it at semifinals as week 15 and then week 16, because I always find when you have your finals on the last week, a lot of players like Brady could sit for the whole second half. So you're looking at your finals with your strongest bench, and technically teams, if they're in the playoffs, they may be sitting. So, but then the consensus was more weeks of fantasy, the more fun, and that's what we're all in, is for more fun. So, the ball rolled, and we're now in a 17.
Well, if you and I can somehow make it to the finals, week 17 for me, is our finals, and Brady's got the Jets. So if he does sit that week at halftime, hopefully he throws 4 touchdowns in the first half before he sits, because I'm going to need him week 17. All right, should we move on to running backs?
Okay, I guess so, because there's really pickings out there. But let's go pick the best of the best that are on the bench.
Okay, Rashad Penny's name is on here because the Seahawks picked up Adrian Peterson, played him for 1 week, put him back on the practice roster. They've rotated through a whole bunch of different guys there. And I think Rashad Penny is the guy they actually want to start. If he can somehow nurse his hamstring back to health, I think he's going to be the guy moving forward. So you might want to take a chance of trying to pick him up, because if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to get a lot of work.
Yeah, they were giving the ball to Homer as well too, so it's a committee back there. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And then same committee situation in Philadelphia, where they're rotating different guys in and out of the lineup all the time. Jordan Howard didn't play last week, but I think he'll be the featured back this week. Some of the other guys are injured.
And Gainwell had a game, so he's also there as well too. Yeah. I don't know. Seattle, Philly, I don't know. It's kind of like,
yep.
There could just be more reliable people on your bench.
Yeah, hopefully.
Go up in a lineup. But if you need somebody, because Taylor is gone this week, so you might need somebody to fill in.
Yeah. I've got Dalvin Cook. I've got Dalvin Cook on my bench. I mean, I'd love to be playing him, but he's injured and he's going to be out, and I don't know for how long. So, McKissick, I've got him. He's out. So some of these other names here, I mean, Tennessee was on a bye last week. Now there's Dontrell Hilliard back in the mix again, and Devonta Foreman. There's a couple of names from past lists, and they're got to work them back in this week. So we were talking about the Carolina situation, how they want to run the ball more. They fired their coordinator. So here's Amir Abdullah again. You were talking about him last week, being that he was a former Lion, and he's a good player.
The high draft pick, second round, supposed to be the bee's knees. Couldn't get it together in Minnesota behind Cook. And Mavis, maybe this is his calling, his opportunity, his chance. He is a gamble. Maybe he is the sneaker this week. You pick him up. If he has a great week, he might be your guy going into the playoffs.
Yep. Same thing in Houston. Banged up running backs. There's a name that popped up, Scotty Phillips. Started getting some work last week. I know no one's ever heard of him. He might end up being good. I don't know. He's part of that rotation. Rex Burkhead got a lot of work, didn't do much with it. Philip Lindsay's gone. So here's a name for you, Scotty Phillips. Look him up, see if he's available. He might be able to help you if you've got an injury at running back. Another injury in Las Vegas, Kenyon Drake broke his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs has been hurt on and off and in and out of the lineup. So the next man up is Jalen Richard.
Yeah, and they like to feature two backs. So, Jacobs is obviously the workhorse, but Richard might be out there too. So good call.
And so what did you think of Sony Michelle last weekend? What a game he had. That really surprised me.
Yeah, I had him earlier on in the year when Junior, I don't know what his full name, went out.
Anderson Jr. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, great running back. I've always enjoyed watching Sony Michelle play. I think that was the reason why they actually picked him up this year out of Patriots, was to make sure that there was a backup to the backup,
Right.
Backup to the rookie, because of the injury that suffered by, who got injured again? Akers or something?
Yeah, Cam Akers got hurt last year. Apparently he might be coming back this year later on.
So anyway, so with Akers gone and Junior actually stepping up as a good rookie running back, Sony Michelle was just their insurance, and insurance paying off. I wish I kept him. I just couldn't keep him at the time, due with bye weeks. But the guy that picked him up last week did really well. So kudos to that guy who picked him up in my league, and hopefully someone else is listening to us and they will pick him up in their league this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, Henderson will get healthy again and come back into the lineup. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I guess Sony Michelle would be worth looking at again this week because of the same situation. He might not get as much, but he's someone you should consider. Do you know how healthy Henderson is right now?
Just a question.
Yeah, something for people to be aware of. And then another team with the rotating running backs is the Jets.
They have Tevin Coleman picking up the ball now and running with the rock. That's funny. Definitely he's out there. He used to be a premier back when he played for Atlanta. I don't know what's going on with the Jets. They change every week. So
yeah,
what happens this week?
Yep, it's another muddy backfield. It's a murky situation, but he's getting touches. He's getting touches down by the goal line, and he's got to, you got to consider him if you're trying to make your playoffs, like we talked about. So there's another name for you, Tevin Coleman. Good luck with those names, and you want to move on to wideouts? I guess it's not that surprising in Atlanta that Russell Gage is finally getting a lot of work against a good defense, Tampa. He had 11 grabs for 130 yards. They targeted him 12 times. He's available in my league. I think he's a good pickup going forward because we don't know what's going on with Ridley. I don't know if we're going to see him at all again this season. That makes Russell Gage their top guy.
Yeah, Pitts had a great catch on the sideline. I don't think he was out of bounds. He would have scored like an 80-yarder or at least a 60. So Pitts is always there too. So he's a young, lean tight end that's catching a lot of the balls, and obviously Patterson is the stud out there on the field too. So.
Right.
Gage does get the looks when they need like the short down and distance on like third and short. So when they're doing those slant calls, so yeah, he's catching the balls. If he's around, we've been talking about this guy for seems all season long. So and probably due to the fact that Ridley's been put himself on IR, he's just not available most of the time.
Yeah. And then Thielen has got a high ankle sprain. He'll be out for a while. And Jefferson had a huge game. But they can't just throw to Jefferson every play. With Cook being out, they don't seem to be working the running back as much. So I'm saying KJ Osborne is somebody worth looking at from Minnesota. He's been getting fairly consistent work all season long. I think with Thielen out, he probably will get more.
Yeah, if they're focusing on Jefferson.
Okay.
You need somebody to replace Thielen. Minnesota just throw the ball. We know that. Cousins throws the ball. So.
Right. And what they don't do is defend very well in the last 2 minutes of the game against teams that haven't won all season long. What did you think of that game? Were you on the edge of your seat?
Every week I'm on the edge of my seat, except for like the two big blowouts that we had this year. But most weeks, I gotta say, being a Detroit Lions fan is very entertaining because you just never know. You think they're out, and then they just kind of crawl back. And there's always this potential, this fish bait. Stressful, but it was interesting. I was pretty happy. I was shocked. I was like, they won.
Yeah,
they won. Like I was just shocked. It was good. It was good. Whatever. It's just an interesting play calls at the end. I think I would have gone for the field goal instead of the touchdown. I was actually quite surprised that Detroit didn't let the guy run into the end zone. Like they stopped him twice. Going, with no time left. Dan Campbell put in a questionable timeout. Like I just am wondering what was his mindset in that? Like he was calling a timeout with Minnesota with the ball on the drive. I don't know. It's just interesting garbage play calls and coaching, and I'm surprised they actually snuck out the victory. But then I saw something online this week that was like, due to the win, they've lost number one pick by 50%. Because if they win one more, then they're tied for 2-11 with Houston and Jets. But then it goes on toughness of schedule, which I believe
Detroit should still get toughest of the schedule because they did play the AFC North and the NFC West this year. So pretty tough divisions to be playing against for such a crap team.
But they've got a couple of wideouts there that might be available for people to pick up. Apparently, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud receiver. He came through in the clutch there.
10 catches this week, 10 targets, 10 catches. Did really well.
I thought that Josh Reynolds was going to be more the favored receiver because of his history with Goff with the Rams, but that doesn't seem to be helping him edge out Amon-Ra for being the favorite target.
Well, they're playing different positions. Reynolds is playing outside St. Brown's slot. So
okay.
That's probably why you're seeing a little bit more targets come their way. But interesting. Those two guys, pick them up if you want to, but 156 yards for golf or something like that this week. Is it really the quarterback that you want be throwing your receiver the ball? These guys could get a touchdown, maybe not. I don't know. It's pretty tough when it comes.
Yeah.
Like I said, just stay away from Detroit unless you have like Swift, who's injured, and Williams, who's now the featured back that had problems running the ball last week. So
yeah. Well, bye weeks, guys are trying to make the playoffs. If you're desperate for a play, we're trying to give people some help here. Another guy that I've got, I thought I would suggest Marquez Valdez Scantling because Green Bay was on a bye last week, so people might have forgotten about him. But he had a good game last time. And, I think every once in a while, Rodgers has got to look to him. They can't throw to Adams on every play. And, it's a good quarterback and a good team. So you might want to consider MVS.
Yeah, we talked about stashing him on the bench last week. There's someone else that I kind of want to mention too. I don't know what this guy actually can do in fantasy, and maybe it's just a pipe dream that he might be someone to be interested. Is Ty Montgomery from the Saints. He's one of those multiplayers that is / a running back / wide receiver. So you can move him up and down in your charts. And he did see some catches and he did see some runs last week. He used to play for Green Bay. That's why I'm bringing him up. It's kind of like, he wears an 88, but he runs the ball. He did some good work. Now, I don't know what's going on in the backfield of the Saints about who's running the ball over there. Or this guy is a wide receiver running back, so he might be able to do both. And he actually might see some more gameplay time depending on how they run their team for the remainder of the year. So
and we've got to see how Taysom Hill's finger is because he's got another QB with a banged up finger. He's not the best thrower when he's healthy. So they might depend a little more on the running game than usual, and Montgomery can run it or catch it, like you said. So that's a good guy to look at for running back or wide receiver in your flex there. And then the Dolphins had, I guess Devontae Parker came off IR or something. He played last week. We haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, he's on a bye this week, but same thing. Like, dash him. He might be the winning ticket to your fantasy playoffs.
Okay, stash Devontae Parker. Good tip. And then for tight ends, once again, and he's available in my league, Tyler Conklin is a guy, he especially with the Thielen injury, I think he'll get even more work than usual, and the Cook injury. He's available in my league, surprisingly. I should have picked him up. I went and got Foster Moreau this week because I needed some help at the tight end spot. And
from Las Vegas, right?
From Las Vegas, and they only threw to him once the whole game.
Yeah,
I think he got 3 targets, but he had 1 catch for 34 yards. So I got 3 points out of him. But I thought filling in for Waller, we talked about this last week, you'd think he'd have got more targets.
Yeah, I don't know. Tight end's a tough position to even score points on. I think the average, if you get 12 points on the tight end, you should just be happy. What's the average? 8? I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems like these guys are just never get points.
Yeah. Yeah, and Logan Thomas for Washington made his way back into the lineup, and now he's hurt again. I think he might be out for the season. So
Yeah.
yeah,
They didn't know Riviera or whatever his name is. He didn't claim, like he's saying it's a knee injury. He's not an IR. Who knows? But I picked him up. I'm going to drop him. I think there could be something else out there for me.
you could consider Ricky Seals-Jones. He's played well when Thomas has been out in the past, so he's on that team, and I'm sure he'd be available in most leagues.
Yeah.
And it's getting pretty thin at tight end. There's James O'Shaughnessy with Jacksonville. I know we don't like Jacksonville, but Dan Arnold's still out, so he's the starter there, and they like to throw to the tight end on that team. And then one guy I thought I would suggest is Josiah DeGuara from Green Bay. And the reason why is because they lost their starting tight end to a knee injury for the season. And I know that Aaron Rodgers likes to look at the tight end down by the goal line. He threw a lot of touchdowns to the tight end last year. And so this guy is now making his way up the lineup. And, you know, he hasn't put up the numbers yet, but I'm saying he's somebody to keep an eye on going forward, because I think he's going to get the ball quite a bit down by the goal line for Green Bay, especially when Adams has been in and out of the lineup. The running back, Aaron Jones, has been in and out of the lineup. They throw to him quite a bit down by the goal line too. So he hasn't been around as much. And yeah, just something to consider, I would say.
The only thing I kind of like about Green Bay is their defense. I think if you can score their defense, I think they're kind of surprising. But yeah, like I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will throw the ball to multiple receivers as he picks and chooses and kind of works his magic through the defenses. He seems to have a very high completion ratio, so he's like a phenomenal quarterback, shitty human. But their defense is something to consider, I think, if you're looking for a defense, especially if you were listening to us a couple of weeks ago and pick up like Miami or have New England for like they're they're the best defense in the league and they're on a bye. So there's defenses out there that probably people need to pick up. And then I would also take a look at the Chargers, but I don't know if Bosa is injured or not, but he shouldn't really be a factor. But I think the Chargers have a pretty solid D. I know they give up a lot to run, but maybe just streaming them this week is an option.
Yeah, you might want to look at the Seahawks also, because they play Houston, and Houston has a problem, and it's their offense. Seattle, I would say, is a team to look at this week if one of your if you've got Patriots, like you said, Eagles, Colts, Dolphins, they're all out. You need somebody. Seattle D against Houston, and then I can't believe I'm saying this, but Minnesota actually statistically is not a bad defense, even though they cost their team a win last weekend against the Lions at the very end there. They play Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's offense is terrible this season.
You know what I don't understand is I was looking at the rankings yesterday after the win, after like the week was over.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh is like the seed right after the wild card, but then there's another team that's like 7-5 that is like in second space, and I don't understand why Pittsburgh is in a higher spot than this other team.
Well, I mean, because of the tie, they have fewer losses. I think they put more emphasis on that. How many losses you have?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny how they do the mathematics when it comes down to this time of the year about who's making the playoffs and who's not. All I know is that not many teams make the playoffs. So if you're not in the top 4 of your division, and even if it's a crappy division, the NFC East is just the worst division. Anyways, so yeah. Interesting to see where Pittsburgh would go. And see how they're going to play against. Like that Washington guy really did eat me up last.
Heineke?
Fantasy, like he got 30 points.
Taylor Heineke, the QB for Washington?
No, Deion Washington or Devontae Washington from Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh's receiver. Yeah, he had a great game.
Yeah, he really ate me up.
Yeah.
Made me lose my week. I think the guy that beat me had 100 points just in his receiving core, and he only had 3 receivers starting. So that means each receiver got 30 points.
Yeah. Yeah, I was lucky this weekend. I had Godwin and Jefferson, and they both went off. So I had a huge score in my game, and I'm definitely in the playoffs, and I think I've clinched the bye for the first round. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I should be in the playoffs. I can't see myself moving out of playoff rank. But if I lose 3 and someone wins 3, I could definitely go from 1 to 9. I guess pretty easily. So every given week, I know that DJ Moore is coming back. Hopefully, he can get a little bit more groove with an offensive coordinator swap at Carolina. And I know like Robbie Anderson should probably also see some if there's an offensive coordinator swap. So interesting to see what's going to happen with Carolina with this. And obviously, too, like I said, that we don't know what happens with the Giants because Barkley's not doing anything and Booker is still available. You should try and pick him up as well, too.
Yeah, I want to see what's going on with Philadelphia's quarterback situation. I know Philly's on a bye this week, but Gardner Minshew comes in, gets the big win for them. And I don't know how injured Jalen Hurts is. But, Minshew looked pretty good. And so I don't know if Hurts has got that job nailed down in Philly or not. I want to see who gets to play going forward and who wins that job ultimately.
Is it going to be like the Super Bowl where they had like one quarterback for the whole year, last 4 weeks going to the playoffs, backup quarterback, and then back to the start Wentz, and then
same team. So yeah, who knows? They could repeat that formula.
Different head coach though.
Okay, well, we covered a lot of ground here. Slim pickings on the waiver wire, but there's some guys out there that that could help you out. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be picking up defense this week.
Yeah, true. There's some good
because
defense.
they're probably holding on to only one defense. So
right.
Defense, I think, is the hot one this week since the Colts and Miami and Patriots all studs.
So Chargers, Green Bay, Minnesota, and Seattle are our defensive suggestions.
Yeah, let's see how we come across next week when we talk.
Okay, well, good luck. Hope you win your week.
Yeah, you too.
All right, talk
All right.
next week.
Bye.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.